Hey, everybody, welcome to another episode of Movie Chatter. This is going to be a very fun episode, and I say that because we get a lot of feedback from listeners across the entire Random Chatter network that the episodes in which there are conflict
There's no conflict.
make for the more interesting episodes. And I promise you, there will be conflict.
There's no conflict when my guest hosts are, or when my co-hosts are wrong.
In tonight's episode.
There's no conflict.
There will be, what's the biblical term? Lou? Wailing and gnashing of teeth, I think is how it goes.
Don't poke me. He's poking me. I'm poking him.
Oh,
back.
there's going to be some poking. Yeah, so today we are going to be covering The Italian Job, the 2003 heist thriller. But thanks to our resident film studies professor, we are also injecting into this The Italian Job from back in 1969.
How about paying homage to the OG?
Is there a way to
really,
to make that more? No, that's too positive a statement. We have to. There's a certain threshold we have to keep it below.
After watching the original, I'm wondering to myself, how did anybody convince anybody to make a sequel or to make a new version of it?
Oh, I think that after watching the original, there were so many reasons to do it better.
But usually you do another version because the first one was so successful. Let's make it even better.
It did take a few years, Lou. It took 30 years for someone to say, you know what? That could have been such a great movie. What if they'd done it this way? This way being like any better way. And so they did.
Yeah, you got a point. You got a good point there.
You know, what if we had a couple of high school students? We probably couldn't get seniors, but like ninth graders who don't know any better. What if we had them write a movie that was better? And then it kept going and going. And finally Hollywood said, well, why don't we just like actually do it for real? And then they got real people in and it just kept going because people realized, wow, there's so many ways in which this could be better.
Here. This could be really
this
awesome.
could be.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about the movie. So
I'm just gonna sing.
Again,
I'm just gonna sing.
I'm warning you. You can if you want. I won't even mute you.
Eric, they have this new thing on Skype called drop from call.
Yes, but we do have a staff member, Shannon, who hosts the Tight Beam, who is celebrating a birthday today. Happy birthday, Shannon. And I wasn't going to sing on the episode, but if there's a point at which we do break into song on the episode, I feel like I should also participate.
Wow.
And I would be happy to sing happy birthday to Shannon. Not just because she deserves it.
Listeners to leave.
Everybody
so, Robin,
out there,
don't sing because if Eric sings, we'll lose both of our listeners.
It's up to you, Robin.
everybody out there, I just want you to know I'm doing this for you. I'm going to refrain from my melodious tones, which characterize the brilliance of the 1969 version of The Italian Job, because then you won't have to
Especially
listen
if you're going to be singing
Eric.
that song at the end, that Preservation Society thing. Like that is like the stupidest song in the world. Like I had the subtitles on, and so the subtitles are giving the lyrics of the song as it's going along, and I'm like, I am so freaking confused. Like the drug trip scene in 2001: A Space Odyssey made more sense than this thing did.
Not if you actually watch the movie.
Yes, I actually watched the movie, and the song was what the hell was that nonsense? In addition to just being an ultimately crappy song, it was. Yeah. And the worst part. So we're watching. I'm watching this the other day, and to be like to our audience out there, we should clarify most of this episode is going to be about the 2003 version of The Italian Job with Donald Sutherland, Mark Wahlberg, Edward Norton,
my girlfriend,
etc. Okay, so we're going to get to the one that you're actually going to want to watch, but indulge us for a minute here. So I'm watching this. The opening credits come up, and I'm like, somebody happened to be chatting, and so we're texting each other, and I'm like, wow, these are like really long credits. And then Quincy Jones is the guy in charge of the music for this, as this horrible song is playing. Now, Quincy Jones, one of the best pop music producers of all time, like produced all kinds of stuff through the 80s, through the So Michael Jackson, even if you don't like his music, if you're looking at audio production quality, was really good.
Quincy Jones is a genius.
Quincy Jones is a freaking genius. What happened? Like, I know they did drugs in the 60s, but like, I'm just grateful he had a career after this.
Yeah, he just phoned this one in.
Holy crap. I don't even think it was him. I think like his secretary snuck out. Somebody slipped her like $10,000 to put his name in the credits. And she's like, yeah, I'll do it. And talked to, hey, Quincy, I signed you up for a movie project. I don't want anything to do with that. Oh, okay. Yeah, guys, here, take these songs. And maybe this one over here. And I'm sure like,
Quincy with a small Q, Jones with a small J.
oh my gosh, this was so bad. So bad.
But then
the credits keep going and they keep going. And it's this guy driving on the highway in a sports car. And it just keeps going and it keeps going. And I'm texting them all back and forth through the credits. I'm like, oh my gosh, is this the whole movie? Is it like that video game that Penn and Teller did, that bus trip from Nevada to where it's like 8 hours of just making sure the bus that kind of drifts to the right just doesn't fall off the road. And that's the whole thing. And so then they get to this thing where it's like no animals were harmed in the making of this film. And all characters are fictional and stuff. And it's got like the production logo. And this is the opening credits. And I'm like, Robin, I took a screenshot of it and texted these guys. I said, you've got to be freaking kidding me.
Okay, so let's set the context here. The original Italian Jobs is 1969 production, directed by Peter Collinson. Did
he ever work again after this?
Time, it starred some pretty heavy hitters. Michael Caine was Charlie Croker. Noel Coward played the Bridger character, which is decidedly different from the Bridger character that was played in 2003.
I've heard of one of those actors, by the way, but go on.
You've never heard of Noel Coward? That. Okay. Benny Hill.
I've heard of him. I've seen some clips of his show. I mean, I was a little too young for really that.
So, I mean, this had for the time, as we would know them, pretty young breakout characters, but still breakout characters. It set the stage for what I'm assuming you both will appreciate in the remake.
Love the remake.
Which is a heist movie that was decidedly different for its time. It's a little bit James Bond. It's a little bit country. It's a little bit rock and roll. And
the original had too much country in it.
That's the brilliant part of it. It was very European in its structure and its tenor and its tone and its pacing. I know you guys have problems with the pacing, the very long drives, blah, blah, blah. But, I think it was a remarkable movie for its time. And when you're talking about The Take at $4 million in 1969, that would be almost $40 million in today's money. So,
well, $40 million is not. Well, the box office, to be fair, the box office was very different back then, too. We didn't get the summer blockbusters until Jaws hit in, 75, 76?
Oh, no. I'm talking about, the internal take of the dollars at stake. Sorry, the actual heist.
Oh, I thought you meant the box office take. And I'm like, 40 million. Well, even by today's standards, that's like a failure. Okay, I thought I got it.
Sorry, go ahead, Lou.
Yeah, no, but I'm not worried about the take or the prize they were getting. They could have been selling a pack of bubblegum for all I cared. It just wasn't compelling at all. I mean, I kept waiting for the whole. Okay, let's get to the good part.
I'm gonna, Robin, you're gonna appreciate this. This might even convince you not to sing. I don't know. I'm gonna say just briefly a couple of good things about the original. It'll be brief. It'll be so brief. It'll be brief. First of all, Michael Caine did a great job. Second, other than the torturous opening credits, the pacing for the most part wasn't that bad, taking into consideration it's a movie from the 60s. I have to imagine. Now, I have not seen a lot of movies prior to when I was born. I've not seen a lot of movies prior to about the early 80s. Like that was really when I kind of latched on to movies, and I didn't really go backwards from there, with some exceptions, obviously Star Wars and stuff like that. But I never really went backwards from about maybe say 1982. So I haven't seen a lot of stuff from the 60s. I could count on one hand, and I might still have fingers left. That being said, I imagine that I've seen television and stuff from the 60s, and I know that's not entirely a fair comparison, but I have to imagine this is probably one of the best movies to come out of the 60s, and probably the closest I would come to enjoying a movie from that time period. There were things to enjoy about it. The pacing was not bad. There were parts where it could have been better. The pacing really wasn't that bad. The acting from certain characters wasn't that bad. The writing in some places was just ridiculous. The suspension of disbelief at certain points was ridiculous. At the end of the movie, they steal the stuff. They're driving out of the city. It looks like they're going to be successful. And back in prison, like thousands of miles away, thanks to the miracle called the internet, somehow they instantaneously knew that it was successful, and they're cheering this crime lord in prison. They're still driving out of the city with the gold. They haven't fully escaped yet, but they're celebrating. The job's been done. They did it. How the hell did they whip out their cell phones in 1969 and tweet it or something? Like, maybe I don't understand antiquated satellite technology or something. What am I missing, Robin?
So don't forget, the Bridger character, as it was set in the 60s, had to still be behind bars. Because the 60s was the 60s. He was behind bars.
I don't have context for that, but
the mafia influence, right? Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of things that needed to happen in the 60s to make this successful that needed to be taken out in 2003. Bridger behind bars in 2003 would not have served the storyline. Bridger behind bars needed to set the stage for how important and respected he was in his field. He was a very, very, very good thief who was good to the people who supported him, much like the mafia, right? So they were foils. And I would argue that the Croker character in 2003 was a much stronger character.
I have to look up the names for these. Which one was?
Charlie Croker was Michael Caine in the 1969 version, and
Mark Wahlberg.
And so who was Bridger? Donald Sutherland?
Donald Sutherland was Bridger in the 2003 character. So they do away with the Bridger character to replace the Bridger character with the only female, right? There was a lone female in 1969. They re-envisioned her in 2003. Mm-hmm. So instead of Charlie's girlfriend, right? She's still sort of Charlie's girlfriend in 2003, but her more important piece is as Bridger's daughter, right? Yes, Eric.
So here's the scene that I don't get. The main character, Charlie, is it? Okay, yes. From the 1969 version, he gets out of prison at the beginning of the movie. And, he's going to go do this job and stuff. And his girlfriend meets him at the prison in a stolen car. She takes him back to this hotel room and kind of is like I think she said like a getting out party. There's like 20 women in this hotel room. And he's like, really? And she's like, well, yeah, I thought you'd want to celebrate your home. Later, very shortly later on in the movie, she goes home and there's like 3 women in his place, and she proceeds to beat the crap out of him. I'm so confused. It's like, did he not have enough women there for it to be acceptable, or like what was?
I think so. Yeah.
Is that what it was?
We can only.
There were so many stereotypes of so many.
There were, but it was 1969.
Now you can't judge a movie from '69 by today's standards for that kind of stuff, and I get that. But some of the wacky stuff, I don't get. The Bridger character in prison, they treated the guy like he was royalty. I'm like,
he was.
No, that's not how prison works. I'm sorry, it's not even.
So I know that there were time periods where like crime lords and stuff like that who had influence over the police, and I mean, there's that one scene where he's talking about, oh, hey, how's the house? And the cop's like, oh, really nice. Thank you.
Like,
I appreciate
welcome.
it. And he says, well, you're welcome.
Yeah.
You know, there.
Yeah. So
but
he treated his loyal.
He bought the system.
Remember, later in the movie, they referred to the group as the English mob. And that is exactly what this was. This was a mob movie.
Yep. And I get that. But the prison thing just didn't work for me the way
I agree.
had it. It was just too, like, we're chanting and singing a song. I'm like, no, it's not. I mean, I get people in prison are going to have power, and I get, you're going to do favors for him, and but not that way. I'm like, it was hard to watch. It was just really, really
so hard to watch that your video's frozen.
I'm going to agree with you there.
That's how hard it was to watch. Oh, there you go. Now you're back. Okay. Oh. It was so stunning. No, it literally stunned Lou. How bad it was.
It did.
Really, Lou?
Sorry.
So let's just put the 1969 version in a box. It
and the ending and the last scene. Like, if that's where they were going to end it, that's fine. But they lingered on that final scene for so long that you don't linger that long on a scene and not resolve it. Like, there's a storytelling principle there that you don't violate.
Good 5 minutes. I'm thinking, what we're going to do with this, hanging over the
edge. Yeah, I was like, get out of the bus falls out, or like, while they're all in position, all they had to do, because they were all lined up all the way to the goal. Okay, the guy in the end, pick one up, hand it to the next guy, all the way through, and it would have balanced everything out perfect. Like, but they could figure out this complex robbery, but they couldn't figure out like just a simple basic physics thing. And plus, again, that's not the problem. The problem is it lingered so long on that, and then it just cuts away to the credits with that god awful song. And then it doesn't resolve that scene. Like, if you're going to just go to that scene and there's this thing and then it kind of like, uh-oh, and then it zooms out, that's one thing.
Right.
But they must have spent like 5 minutes on that scene and then just left it hanging. No pun, some pun intended.
By that point, you're like...
But not even in a funny way.
At that point, you're like, let's let them... Okay, if they're going this far, they're going to get to the bottom of this. They're going to fix this. They're going to solve this. Yeah. And they didn't. Yeah.
That was weird. Like, it just... It pulled away and the credits started rolling. I'm like, really? Like, and I didn't even mind the movie that much to that point. And then that just hit me and I'm like, wow, looking back now.
But at that point I was like, okay, it's the 1960s. There are no end credit scene after the credits.
Right.
I was like, oh, I'm done.
Yeah.
Click. I got out. I'm like, yeah, okay, it's done. I don't have to watch anymore. Whew. Thank God.
It was...
It was really
I almost want to spend the whole episode talking about the original, but we won't.
You understand the entire movie was based on faith that Charlie Croker could pull this off.
Uh-huh.
The entire movie was based on faith that Charlie Croker, the mastermind trained by Bridger, could
and then in the final scene we realized, we misplaced our faith.
No.
How do you know?
I think so. But then let's transition to the brilliance of the 2003
Oh, thank goodness. Let me get rid of this IMDb page. Plus, the suspension of disbelief. Like in the 2003, when they talk about the physics of, okay, the cards need to be able to carry this much weight. Because bricks of gold are heavy. They're like really freaking heavy.
Right.
So like that was a thing, and they address it in the 2003 one, and in the 1969 one, they're just like flying through the air and like all of this Dukes of Hazzard stuff, and I'm just like,
no, they addressed it.
They did address it, and then they forgot about it.
Well, they addressed it by him walking through the shop where they're doing stuff, saying, "Do that. You work. You got to do something else. You're just standing and do something." I'm like, you're not explaining anything. What's going on here? It's like, I mean, I know what you're doing, but you need to, why
do we care? It's like when they introduced all the people around the table. Like, he did that, and then we immediately forgot every single one of them because none of them mattered except the one or two that we'd already been introduced to, and they were forgotten about through the entire film. The 2003 version, at least, those characters had, what's the word? Oh, character.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Listen, 1969, the viewers weren't worried about necessarily just the storytelling. This was an
that's what the viewers worried about.
They wanted They wanted to see the action, right? We care about
there was no
storytelling.
What he said.
There was no action.
I adore
Okay,
you.
wait. I got another one though.
Okay.
The sequence before they had the whole thing where like, oh, will they hold the weight? Will they do this? Or they had before that scene, they had the part where they were doing stuff with the cars and they kept going back to Bridger for more money, right? Yeah. And what was that? Okay, we got the ramp with the bricks at the top. Let's run the car up the ramp and then hit half the bricks and tell the guy you're supposed to use your brakes. I'm like, what was he supposed to be doing?
Well, that's the pedal on the right?
Yeah, what was he doing?
Like,
and the other guy runs through the middle of the wall. I'm like, what were they trying to accomplish?
They were trying to accomplish getting on the bus safely at the end of the movie by getting the tires in the right place.
What were they accomplishing with that scene?
At the right time. With the right
What were they accomplishing with that scene?
That's
Robin?
What they were.
They didn't accomplish it.
Yeah, no.
Because here's the thing: if they hadn't had that scene in the movie, when they drive up onto the bus and the guy hits his brakes, you know what I would have thought? Oh, the guy hit his brakes, because that's what you do. Because there's nowhere to continue going. You hit your brakes. I didn't need a scene earlier where they had to teach the guy. Also, when you're driving a car and you have to stop, hit your brakes. Like my 11-year-old knows that part. And that's from playing Mario Kart, where you don't even really use brakes. Yeah, yeah.
But ladies and gentlemen, in our listening audience, let's just that my two co-hosts, extraordinary gentlemen in their
let's
own
not mention that movie.
Did not appreciate this movie, nor the movie named after them.
Okay, but now one last thing before we go on to the 2003 version. Back to that scene, if I didn't understand. I didn't realize that was them practicing getting on the bus.
Again,
because it's not how you would do it. You're not approaching the bus at 10 times its speed. You're approaching the bus at basically the same speed. And you just nudge up onto the ramp. You're not driving at 40 miles ramp and hit a brick wall. It's like,
I mean, as soon as you hit the ramp, you need to.
That's what they're trying to do.
Work on hitting your brakes, but yeah, it's not.
It's a much different closure rate, we'll say. Okay, so 2003 version. This was a much better movie, directed by Gary Gray.
Yep.
We had Donald Sutherland in this. We had Mark Wahlberg. We had Ed Norton. Let's see, we had your girlfriend Charlize.
Charlize.
Jason Statham, Seth Green. So yeah, really good cast.
The director of this also did Set It Off and The Negotiator. I liked The Negotiator. I didn't see Set It Off.
The Negotiator is great.
Yep, Negotiator. I never saw Set It Off, but yep.
So here's the deal. It's the same movie.
No. You can't wait until Lou's taking a drink and drop a bomb like that. There's nothing other than the name and a couple of characters.
Little European cars, and that was kind of the same.
The brilliance of 2003 was they took the best parts of the 1969 version and
traffic jam
changed them
and the use of small tiny cars driving where they're not supposed to drive. That's it. That's all
they started. Look, they started in the same place where the other movie left off.
Jail? Wait, what?
Killed on the exact same road. They killed off.
I agree with you. The road was one of the best parts of the original movie. I agree with you there. Lou, would you say that?
Same road.
Like at least the road was good?
They killed off the major Bridger character.
It was a pavement. Yeah.
In a way that you would fall in love with him. A very short-lived, right? He ingratiated himself very quickly with his love for his daughter and his heartfelt mentorship of Charlie Croker. That is what the 1969 version was missing. There was no need for the audience to care about the characters because the characters didn't care about each other.
Or
themselves. Exactly. Right. And so it's this moment where you suddenly realize, oh, this is what the 1969 movie was actually supposed to be conveying to me. That the Bridger character were mentors, mentees, this really, long relationship
it
of
wasn't,
master and
I
apprentice.
had no idea there was a relationship between them.
And I'm with Lou. To me, like I was going to say, what I really liked about the 2003 movie was how radically different it was from the original, with other than a couple of homages, not at all the same. And that this relationship between Charlie and Bridger was so directly antithetical of what was in the original. And the only time you see them interact in the original, they're at odds. Like Bridger doesn't want to have anything to do with Charlie, and Charlie's there like basically like a used car salesman begging for Bridger's attention. This isn't just a continuation of that where it picks up where it left off. Yeah, there's like literally that road, and that's a nice homage, like for fan service, like something you'd see out of a Star Wars production or something. Oh, there's that little thing in the background. But like the story, I did not see that at all. I thought, like, after having seen the original now and then watching the 2003 version after that earlier today, I'm like, oh, wow, it is so refreshing that they took completely the opposite approach here between those two characters. But you saw it as like
they made them more of a father-son character rather than back in the old days, 1969, if you were an apprentice, you were in almost servitude to your mentor. And that is exactly what you saw in the Charlie Croker character in 1969. Right. In 2003, mentor-mentee relationships are completely different. They're more familial, they're more nurturing, they're more loving. Bridger needed to rough Charlie Croker up in 1969 to remind everybody on the outside that he was still the king. Don't forget that Mafia movie in 1969. In 2003, we're talking about a pure, unadulterated heist job.
Right.
A gang that has been together with a villain, which I hope we will talk about because it is brilliantly played, that is from the inside rather than from the outside.
And this is why we should only do stuff like this and not the other stuff, because this was cool. and it worked, and it made for a really good movie. So let's talk the casting, and then we'll get into the plot for the 2003 version and what we liked about it. We will leave the 1969 version far behind in the past where it belongs.
Far behind.
In the dumpster.
Yes. I love my co-host. It is in
the dumpster, and it is on fire. It is a dumpster fire.
All right, let's not push me because I will.
So will I. And I promise you, I am better at singing badly than anybody I've ever met. So,
go ahead, Lou.
Mark Wahlberg.
Lou, you're good.
You're okay. You're okay. You're safe. You will see me like emphatically getting into it if I sing. You'll know. So Charlie Crocker in this one is played by Mark Wahlberg. He's the main character. You've got your girlfriend, Charlize Theron, playing Stella Bridger, the daughter of Donald Sutherland's character, John Bridger, who, this isn't a spoiler, gets offed at the beginning of the movie. So they do a heist, and they succeed. One of the characters betrays the rest of them, shoots the father figure of the group, and takes off with all the money, leaving everybody else with nothing. That character, played by Edward Norton. We also have Seth Green, who plays kind of the computer hacker guy. We've got Jason Statham. This is probably one of the earliest movies I saw Jason Statham in. And I didn't even know he was a martial artist when I first started watching his movies. I think it probably wasn't until The Transporter when I saw that. But between this and Snatch, he's one of those action stars who does the martial arts thing, but he can actually act too. Like for real, he can act. Like he can carry a scene when he has to. So he's in this as one of the drivers, the main driver. You have Mos Def as the, I guess the demolitions expert.
Demolitions.
Mos Def being probably best known by most of our audience, sadly, for The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. But he's a musician too. He's a rapper. Who am I missing here? I think that's
I had to
it.
tell you, I really liked, Handsome Rob.
Statham.
I liked his,
Hmm.
yeah. I like the names that they gave to the characters. I mean, they were stuck with Charlie Croker because, right Charlie, right Charlie, right Charlie. This is the thing that they were
Right.
stuck with, right? You have to continue that. Um, the 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 names that they gave to the other folks were just a little bit of throwback to the idiocy that happened in 69, but bringing it in.
But
All right, because don't forget, this was like a marriage um between a heist movie and a mob movie,
this didn't feel
and
like a mob movie to me, though.
this one
Right.
didn't. No, but it had to bridge that merit. It had a gap, right? Because the original was a straight up mob movie.
But see, I don't see this one as. I guess maybe we just have different perspectives on it. But to me, there's nothing about the 2003 version that felt like it was trying to bridge anything. It felt like it was just dumping the original, keeping the name and a couple of the character names, and going in and doing its own thing entirely.
I just think it was doing it better. And that's what I think a good it looks at the original, it takes in all of its flaws and it does it better. And this decidedly did it way better.
It would have had to.
Yeah.
I mean, it couldn't have done it.
But there's a lot that it did differently too. Like just it didn't take the same story and do the same story. But I agree with you. It took it and did it better. But they also changed the story. And they didn't just take the old story and redo it in a better way. They went with a completely different story. This one had, like you said, the betrayal with Edward Norton, which was phenomenal. And then after that, it wasn't about this big heist from, a bank or something like that. It was specifically about avenging the death of the Bridger character and about getting what was, quote, rightfully theirs from the beginning of the movie, getting back at Edward Norton's character. So all of the themes and the tones and what actually happened in the plot were very different in this movie. And I liked it. It made it much easier for me to invest in what was going on because, as you said earlier, Robin, we cared about the characters. And then anytime you have loss, so Charlize's character lost her father. Wahlberg's character lost a father figure and millions of dollars. Mm-hmm. All the other characters lost millions of dollars and to a lesser extent a father figure. So there's that easy way to empathize with those characters and to invest in what's going on. And now everything that you see them go through, you invest in. And that was a change, I think, that was really significant that made this a really compelling movie, probably more so than a lot of other heist movies, because this was personal for the characters and you cared about the characters from the very beginning. So more so, when I think heist movies, I think of this movie before a lot of others. Yeah, we've got Ocean's 11 and all that, and those were like epic and clever for heist movies, but this one had a heart to it that a lot of other heist movies don't have. Right. And that's why The Italian Job is always the one I go back to for heist movies. It's because of what you said. They're a family, and they're all like, they genuinely connect and care about what happens to one another. And you never feel like after that first betrayal at the beginning, you never feel like that's going to happen again throughout the movie. They are a family. And they're not just going to get into it and then walk away at the end of the movie like Ocean's 11 or something. It's not just a job to them.
But one thing you mentioned about the family aspect or about the characters themselves, one thing that makes a good movie for I think a lot of us will agree on the same thing is that it's the character development in the path the characters take, not just a clever story, not just action, not just sci-fi. If there's good character development, it makes raises the movie to another level beyond just a action movie or just a heist movie. This one, I think that Ocean's 11 does it to a certain extent too, because you had character development, you knew who the characters were, you cared about what they were doing and why they were there. It wasn't like, this is John, he's a driver. This is, and then, okay, let's move on because we just did the scene with 11 people around the table and now we're done. So to me, the character development means a lot in a movie like this, and it does, like I said, raise it to another level.
Yeah.
No, I have to agree. And the thing about the character development was how connected they were to this very short-lived Bridger character. and notwithstanding and the Croker character, they all cared for Bridger, and the scene where Steve, which is the Ed Norton character's name, shoots Bridger, is one of those scenes that again, just like the scene in John Wick where the dog gets killed, I cannot watch. I will find any excuse to leave the room, plug my ears for those 30 seconds, and then come back in the room and carry on with the film. That is one of those scenes that is literally heartbreaking. And it's hard, and because I feel for the other characters, because they were by this absolute betrayal by one of their own.
Yeah.
And that to me is the brilliance of what happened with this movie, is in a very short amount of time, they were able to establish a backstory, a forward moving story, and capture a character composite, let's say, that allowed them to deepen their characters, because then they started to go with the backstories, right? You got a little bit of their backstories, just enough to deepen your caring, but your caring was established right away.
Yeah. I think that probably the thing that separates this movie from other heist movies more so than anything else is that it's how much you care about the characters in this movie compared to other similar films. And including the original, which I really want to avoid going back to as much as I can. But I think it bears repeating that this is probably the biggest success of the reboot. And again, the way it stands out from other heist movies is this movie, you care a lot about what's going on with the characters. Yeah, there are great action scenes. Like, they're really, really good action scenes. And the heist at the end, the kind of each side trying to stay one step ahead of the other, I thought was really clever and brilliantly written, as well as brilliantly directed and brilliantly executed by the actors and actresses. But it was really good. It held up as an action-filled heist movie too. But I think it was really the characters and our connection with them that stood out above anything else.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
And the music was better.
I like the inclusion of the Mini Coopers. I like the there's just, it's sort of like when you sort of rebuild a car, you take the best of what happened in the original and rebuild it. So there was some really nice touches there, where they could have simply diverged. Like, you know what? Yeah, you're right, Eric and Lou. We're going to throw out the original and completely rebuild it. But they had these nice touchstones, the Mini Coopers. And then they obviously updated. Clearly, she was the best driver of all of, whoever they could have recruited or did recruit to be drivers, along with the safe cracking. You know what I mean? They elevated the female character, which was right and proper.
And did not just make her a love interest.
Skills.
I mean, there was a scene at the end, but throughout the movie, she wasn't just a love interest. Like, that wasn't a focus.
Right. It was the same problematic relationship you saw in Indiana Jones, in the first Indiana, with Karen Allen. Karen Allen?
I don't know. In this movie, the character was less vapid than
right.
Indiana
it
Jones.
Was the same problematic relationship between the main male character and the supporting female character.
I thought they had a history in Indiana Jones, though, didn't they?
They did in the Stella and Charlie had a history in this version.
Did they? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they did.
They did.
But and I'll have to, Robert. I mean, not to rain on this movie more than I already did, but to me, they could have named anything else and made this movie.
Sure.
With there was not enough context from the original movie in this movie for me to say, yeah, it was a remake. I mean, they had the cars. Yeah, it was It was in Italy. Yeah. But I mean, they kept character names the same, but otherwise it really wasn't a remake of that movie. I don't think. And like I was saying, recording, a whole part of me is thinking to myself, okay, you redo a movie because it was popular and it was a really, really good movie. And I'm thinking to myself, how did they convince people to remake this movie? Because I'm like, there's no redeeming qualities for the first one, in my opinion. And I'm like, well, somebody must have, liked it enough to say, well, yeah, let's make a new version of it, which I'm glad they did because the new one is fantastic. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But I'm just like, who said, yeah, let's get back and revisit that movie that did so poorly back in 69.
Well, so I have a response to that. And again, I think that back then the movie was probably well liked. And so there's probably a nostalgia factor associated with it that we don't have, that we have for a lot of 80s movies that we try to get people to go back and watch now. And they're like, oh my gosh, you watched this crap growing up? Like, I feel so bad for you. So I think there's part of it's that. And the other part is if they took the Mini Coopers and the traffic jam situation and things like that, and they did another heist movie and didn't call it The Italian Job, then everybody would be like, oh, they ripped that off from The Italian Job. How lame. You guys can't come up with your own crap. Yeah. So I almost think that maybe it was smarter for them to make it as a remake of The Italian Job because those were really good elements. The Mini Cooper thing as a concept to move the story along worked. It wasn't just like, having a movie about time travel and a lead character having a DeLorean again and it being like a Back to the Future throwback. Like this actually had context to the story. The traffic jam thing I thought was brilliant. And that led specifically to the execution of the heist in a very specific way. Those you kind of had to have those elements in for what it was. And if you have those elements, you're either ripping off a different movie or you're rebooting that movie. One, you're not allowed to do, and one you're very much allowed to do. And in this case, made it 1 billion times better. So I kind of agree with you. I'd rather see new stuff. With the exception, I think, of those two elements, really, there's no connection. And again, the character names, but you could have named him Bob Smith. I mean.
So let's just talk about a movement, right? So Ocean's 11 was built off of a 1960 film that starred popular characters, popular actors.
Were these other people popular other than Michael Caine?
Time.
I mean, Benny Hill, but that was a cameo.
Noel Coward, yeah. But if you look at Ocean's 11, 1960 heist film starring the Rat Pack, right? Then they fix it, they redo it. It's amazingly popular because of the actors they put in it. Right. And so this does seem to be a pattern of looking at films done earlier, looking at the technology available, looking at the writing and the tastes of the public that you're trying to serve and saying, yeah, this is kind of low hanging fruit, guys. We can do this.
I mean, I could have done it. I could have taken the original and made something better.
Shot on my iPhone.
Animated, and I can only do like stick figures. 3 frames a second, high def.
I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna take like a book, and I'm gonna, how you used to do the little stick figures in the corner. You can flip through the whole book. I'm gonna do the movie in a stick figure format.
How many of you seen the original Ocean's 11?
I don't think I have.
See? So I guarantee you, if we do the Oceans series and I force you to watch the original, you guys are going to have the same response. It's almost a
Was
challenge.
the original as bad as the original of this?
I'll take the challenge because it can't be.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's got to be. If nothing else, the music's got to be better because look at the cast. Right?
It's Frank Sinatra, Dean Martin, Sammy Davis Jr., Peter Lawford, and Joey Bishop.
I mean, the music's got to be better. Joey Bishop, isn't he the guy from In Sync or New Kids? No, that's a different. Okay, never mind. Okay, so and we do need to cover Ocean's 11, I think, because so anytime.
Sure.
Here's something I would like to propose. Anytime we do like a themed group like this, and we've been doing this anyway, but we haven't really called it out. I think we need to do a couple of obvious picks, and I think in this case, if we're covering heist movies, The Italian Job is obvious, and we have to cover Ocean's 11. That's obvious. But then I think we should cover some that are accessible, story-wise, but maybe people haven't seen. And the one that comes to mind is the one with Jean Reno. And I want to say it's Ronin. The one with, is it Jean Reno and...
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Ronin was the one.
I'd love
De Niro, yeah.
But then,
and I know a lot of people haven't actually seen it. Or maybe people have and haven't seen it in a long time. So I would like to propose that we do Ocean's 11, but that we also do Ronin, because I thought it was a really good heist movie. And then there's another one, and it might even be called The Heist, but it had Edward Norton in it, too.
And it had Will Smith, didn't it? Maybe not. Maybe not. I'm looking.
I thought it was Pacino or something, but
Ronin. I think we could do
maybe it wasn't
Ronin
called The
next,
Heist.
and then Ocean's 11 after that.
You want to do Ronin next? Is that what you said?
I've never seen it, so I'm kind of
let's do that now. I don't know. We'll find it. I don't know where it is. I don't know that it's streaming anywhere, but I'm scrolling back through Edward Norton's filmography here real quick because it should be.
He's got some
great
films too. I mean,
The Score. That's the one I'm thinking of.
Okay.
Let me look.
Score.
Yeah, and that was De Niro as well.
Was the heist called The Money Heist?
Yeah, I think that was. Yeah, that's different. I was giving it the wrong name.
Okay, it is called The Money Heist.
I don't know because I haven't seen it.
And no, this doesn't look like it. Never mind.
So we have two with Robert De Niro. And Sean Bean was in Ronin as well. Yep, from Lord of the Rings, Game of Thrones.
Yep.
Yeah. Yep. So so that was 1998 for Ronin, and the Score was 2001, 2 years later, and they both have De Niro. I say we cover them both. Like, they're both really good.
What was the second one? I'm sorry.
The Score. With
I've
Robert
never
De
saw
Niro and Edward Norton, Marlon Brando, Angela Bassett. Yeah, those are the main A-listers.
Okay.
So,
Directed by
Heist-
Frank Oz. Yeah.
So Heist is
another.
um
Oh, I'm sorry. No, he
Heist
wasn't.
has
De Niro
got-
was this.
Heist has got De Niro, Dave
Batista.
Sorry.
Yeah, Dave Bautista. Yeah.
Batista. But that's about it.
Well, he is the.
Well, when I was saying The Heist, I meant this. I meant The Score. So I was not actually.
sorry.
That's what I'm saying.
Right.
Like, I don't know anything about the movie you're talking about, so that's not what I'm trying to comment on.
Okay.
So if you know something about the movie you're talking about and want to recommend it, that's great. But that wasn't what I was trying to recommend.
I've never
Okay.
seen
Well,
it.
then forget we ever mentioned that one. I was talking about Ronin and The Score.
All right, The Score, 2001.
De Niro, Norton.
That's also got De Niro. There's a lot in common here. Norton, Brando, Bassett.
Directed by Frank Oz.
Yeah. Yep.
Yep.
I've not seen
I
it.
think that.
Yeah, I have not seen The Score. I think I should. I'd like to.
I'd like to.
Another one in the same. Well, earlier actually. Heat. I never saw, but that's another heist-esque movie.
I thought he was
bank robbers.
a little
so forth.
overrated, though.
Really? I never
So
saw
the main
it.
thing about
That's
Heat,
Al Pacino
that's
and De Niro.
and that's the thing. It was the, oh my gosh, we've never seen these two people in a movie before, and one is the cop and one is the bad guy, and everybody talks about this scene in the diner where, like, they kind of sit down at a table and have this confrontation, and he can't really arrest him there, and the bad guy can't shoot the cop there, and there's this tension, and then the rest of the movie is just like.
Yeah, but
Like I didn't like it. I thought it was a bad movie.
But listen to the cast. We've got Pacino,
Yep.
De Niro,
Val Kilmer, Natalie
Val Kilmer,
Portman.
John Voight, Natalie Portman, Ashley Judd.
But
it didn't matter.
No,
Yeah.
But now, was there a heist in the movie, or is it just?
No, it was like a criminal. It was more like a gangster type of thing. I don't even know that it counts as a heist movie.
It's not part of our.
No, I don't even think it's really.
So let's leave it off the list. Yeah.
So I propose we do Ronin and the score next, and then we wrap up with Ocean's 11.
Oceans. How many were there?
I don't know. I've seen Ocean's 11 and 12.
We're only doing 11.
Good.
If we're watching the original, we're only doing 11 because it'll be too long otherwise.
Yeah, I've seen the other ones, but 11.
Yeah, that's the one that's
11
discussion worthy.
Yeah, in Ocean's 8 wasn't bad.
Okay.
Crystal Kingdom, Skull, something. Yeah.
So next week we're doing Ronin and
no, we're going to separate them.
Cool.
Aren't we?
Oh, okay, that's fine.
Next week, let's do Ronin.
Okay.
Sounds
so
good.
there you go, everybody out there. We're going to do Ronin next. And then we're going to, that's the 1998 movie with De Niro, Jean Reno, Sean Bean. Then after that, we're going to do the score. That's the 2001 movie with De Niro and Edward Norton. And then we will bring it back around to Ocean's 11. We're going to try to watch the original. And then we can kind of do the same sort of thing, hopefully with less ridicule of the classic version this time around, because hopefully it's less worthy of ridicule.
Hey, gentlemen, you ridicule the Rat Pack and see if any gods or goddesses above strike.
I'm not going to ridicule them. I might ridicule the movie they were in. Sean Connery did some stinkers, and I love Sean Connery. We talked about that last week. I mean, doesn't mean that they're bad people. I won't diss the Rat Pack, but I mean, if the movie's not good, that's what we do here on Movie Chatter. If it's not a good movie, we say so. I'm not going to lie to our audience.
You know what? I just one more parting thing. I think that this is Charlize Theron's weakest role, and I was a little disappointed.
Maybe.
I think it was a young actress playing a role that she wasn't comfortable with. I think if you were to fast forward to now after Atomic Blonde and all of the
wasn't she in Monster shortly after this? And that's what she got wasn't that her in Monster? Or Monster or something?
Yeah, I think it was.
And wasn't there an Academy Award nomination or win for her in that? And like after that, her career changed. I agree with you. I think this was she wasn't on my radar when this movie came out.
Right. I didn't watch this movie because of her, but when I rewatch it all the time, I'm like, God, she looks so young. God, she looks so young. And it's because she was a youngish actress, and certainly she was in other things, but I can see a maturity in this actress that I just adore, with the roles that she bravely takes on, and she's not afraid to be stereotyped. Forever for me, she's going to be Atomic Blonde. Now she can take on Bond as far as I'm concerned. Really? What is wrong with you? What rock are you?
I heard mixed things when it came out. I didn't see it, and nobody's ever convinced me since then to go see it. Nobody's even talked about it other than you.
Totally convincing you to see it.
Okay, I'll see it.
It is fantastic.
It's still on my I'll get around to it someday list. It's not that I don't want to see it. It's just that I haven't caught up with it yet.
Have you seen it, Lou?
Atomic Blonde, you've seen it, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
Is it something we should cover at some point?
Sure. I have no problem with that. I mean, she's done some stinkers too. Don't get me
Fatmatic
wrong.
in the chat room says Atomic Blonde is good.
Yep. She did Ian Flux.
Oh my gosh, what a bad movie. I think we have an old Random Chatter episode of Eon Flux from the theatrical release.
All right, look, we don't talk bad of family members, partners.
No, but we often talk bad of things family members do. And let me tell you, Atomic Blonde.
It's good.
It's good at what?
Amazing.
Yeah, definitely.
Atomic Blonde is good. I meant the other one, Eon Flux.
Oh, Eon Flux.
Yeah, no, Eon Flux was.
I can't be responsible for her younger days.
That movie too. I really
I love the animated series.
Yeah, That's why
animated series was phenomenal. I had the box set for that. I might still have it somewhere, but anyway. Okay, well, I think that's going to wrap it up for this episode of Movie Chatter. I think that we can all agree that the 2003 version is a strong recommendation, right? Yes? Okay.
Yeah. Yep, definitely.
And the
thumbs up.
The 1969 version, I don't know, something's up. I don't think I want to stick my thumb there, but
people who appreciate celluloid cinema.
I'm not even sure that would
even that's a stretch.
Yep, okay.
Even that's a stretch. Not saying we'd recommend the original, but anyway. But alas, that is going to do it for our coverage of the Italian Job, primarily the 2003 version here on Movie Chatter. We would recommend you go see it. We would also recommend you join our Discord server. We just did some housekeeping. I think I've cluttered the place up pretty well. I don't know. Good feedback so far on it.
Did you throw things around?
I did. I moved things around. We brought some color to it. We renamed some channels and tried to bring some personality to it. People seem to like it so far. Been getting good feedback on it. So check that out. If you haven't been there already, go to randomchatter.com/Discord. This is a great time to jump in and meet with other audience members just like you. Hang out. What else? Go to randomchatter.com/YouTube to get video episodes. We do video for Movie Chatter, Random Chatter, Echo Base, The Outer Rim, Trailer Breakdown, The Story Crucible. And you can get those at randomchatter.com/YouTube. And don't forget to click subscribe. And if you like the episode, click the little thumbs up button down there. We would really appreciate it. You can get all of our podcasts through the main website at randomchatter.com. You can support us on Patreon and actually become a member of the Random Chatter Network. We're a nonprofit organization, so donating even $1 a month actually makes you a member of the network. So congratulations. And we really appreciate the people who help support us that way. And I'm trying to think, is there anything else we need to... I'm not wearing my shirt tonight, but you can get Random Chatter and Movie Chatter t-shirts. Randomchatter.com/store. We have hoodies. We have well, no, we don't have underwear. We're still working on the underwear thing. Right, Lou? Any progress on that yet?
Yeah. No, not yet.
No, we're not. No, we're not.
Yeah, we are.
We do.
Yeah. Boxers.
No kidding. This is a real thing. We do have Random Chatter masks.
We do.
We do. Audience members have purchased them. They posted pictures of it in our Discord server. They look awesome.
Although my buddy Lou gave me a recommendation for the most comfortable mask ever, and I have been wearing it and wearing it.
Good. Post us a link in the Discord server because I know a lot of people would like to see that. And that's the kind of thing we use Discord for. We share things with one another, not just about movies and television, but about our lives. And that's what makes us a community. Going back to the Italian Job, that's what makes us care about one another and keeps us engaged. And that's why this was such a good movie. And we do the same thing in our Discord server here at Random Chatter. See, you like how I kind of did that transition, bringing it all back around full circle? I've been practicing.
Very nice.
All right.
Yeah.
So that is going to do it for this episode of Movie Chatter. Tune in again, and we will be back with, what do we say we're doing next? Ronin or The Score? Ronin next?
Ronin.
All right. We'll see you then. Take care.